Good morning all. Today's topic is prostaglandin. Basically, prostaglandins are a group of potent hormones like substances that are produced in various mammalian tissues. They are derived from arachidonic acid, and these prostaglandins, they provide a wide range of physiological functions, like they control the blood pressure, contraction of uterine muscles, other smooth muscles, and modulation of inflammation. Basically, prostaglandins and their related compounds like prostacyclin, thromboxane, leukotrienes, and lipoxins, they are collectively known as eicosanoids. What are these eicosanoids? These eicosanoids, they are a long chain that contain 20 carbon fatty acids. These prostaglandins, out of all the prostaglandins two, this prostacyclin and thromboxane, they are collectively known as prostanoids. Okay? Now, what is the biosynthesis of these prostaglandins? How these prostaglandins are formed? We all know in biochemistry department we have learned all this biosynthesis of prostaglandins. What happens in the membrane phospholipid? Okay, with the help of this enzyme phospholipase A2, this is converted into arachidonic acid. This arachidonic acid is responsible for the formation of all eicosanoids along with prostaglandin, thromboxane A2, leukotriene, and platelet activating factor. As I told you earlier, this prostaglandin and thromboxane A2, they are collectively known as prostanoids. Now, this phospholipid, membrane phospholipid, when this is converted into arachidonic acid with the help of this phospholipase enzyme, it is converted further into leukotriene, prostaglandin, EET, DHET, and arachidonic acid with the help of various enzymes. Like leukotriene is converted into arachidonic acid is converted into leukotriene with the help of lipooxygenase enzyme. Prostaglandin is converted with the help of two enzymes, COX-1 and COX-2. I told you in last class about COX-1 and COX-2 enzyme. So this prostaglandin is derived from arachidonic acid with the help of these two enzymes. This is COX-1 and COX-2. Similarly, arachidonic acid, when is converted into EET. What is EET? Epoxy eicosapent trionic acid with the help of epoxygenase enzyme, and arachidonic acid with the help of isoprostane enzyme. So this is a whole flow chart you can see here about the biosynthesis of prostanoids. Membrane phospholipids, they are converted into arachidonic acid with the help of phospholipase A2 enzyme, which with the help of cyclooxygenase 1 and cyclooxygenase 2, they are converted into prostaglandins. PGG2, which is converted with the help of PGH synthase enzyme into PGH2, which they are further converted into I2, thromboxane A2, E2, F2 alpha, and D2. These G2, H2, I2, these are further classification of prostaglandins. Prostaglandins are the local hormones. They are produced almost in all tissues. They are not stored. They are degraded into inactive products at the site of their production. These prostaglandins are produced in very small amounts and have low half-lives. Now, we are reading this prostaglandins because of the main pharmacological and physiological actions of these prostaglandins. These prostaglandins have different actions on different systems of the human body. Like in first of all eye. What happens in eye? there is a patient of glaucoma, okay, then also we give these prostaglandins. How? I told you the prostaglandins classification earlier, E2, F2, I2, D2, all these are prostaglandins. So when there is increase in PGF2 and PGE2, what happens? There will be decrease in intraocular pressure of the eye. How? There will be increased drainage of uveoscleral pathway in the eye. So this prostaglandin will help in reducing the glaucoma if a patient is having this condition. So this is the action of prostaglandin in eye. Moving on to the respiratory system, PGE2 and I2, they are the bronchodilators. They cause bronchodilation. Apart from E2 and I2, F2, thromboxane A2, leukotrienes and D2, they are bronchoconstriction. They causes bronchoconstriction. So PGE and F, both they oppose the action, each other's action in the lungs, and they are used in the treatment of asthma. As we know, in asthma there is constriction, we use the drug which will cause dilatation, so we will use this prostaglandin. In CVS, the prostaglandin are used mainly in the treatment of hypertension. How? This PGE, A and I2, they are vasodilator. So the result will be increased in the blood flow and decrease the peripheral resistance to lower the blood pressure. So they serve as the agents that are used in the treatment of hypertension. In GIT, what happens? Prostaglandin E2 and I2, what they cause? They decrease the acid secretion and they increase the mucosal blood flow. And there will be increase in water and electrolyte secretion. So prostaglandins, they will inhibit gastric secretion, so they are used for the treatment of gastric ulcers, and they will stimulate the pancreatic secretion and they will increase the motility of the intestine, which will cause diarrhea. So in this way they are used in the GIT. Moving on to the kidney part, this prostaglandins, they are secreted or produced by renal medulla in kidney. What happens in kidney? Prostaglandin E, this E increases the glomerular filtration rate and increases the urine output. It also increases the excretion of sodium and potassium. Apart from that, this E2 and I2, it causes vasodilatation, it inhibits the antidiuretic action and stimulate the renin release. This was about E2 and I2, but this thromboxane A2 in kidney, it causes vasoconstriction. It has ADH-like action. So you should remember both the actions. What individual prostaglandin is having individual action on all the systems of our body. So we have to remember all these actions. Inflammation part, this inflammation E1, E2, they induce the symptoms of inflammation. What are the symptoms of inflammation? Redness, swelling, edema, fever, etc. How? Due to arteriolar vasodilatation. This prostaglandin E is responsible for inflammation, E1 and E2 specifically. This causes arteriolar vasodilatation. Prostaglandins are natural mediators of inflammatory reactions, like in cases of rheumatoid arthritis, psoriasis, conjunctivitis. How will you treat this inflammation? You will give corticosteroids. These corticosteroids are used to treat these inflammatory reactions. Why? Because they inhibit the prostaglandin synthesis. This inflammation is due to prostaglandin. So ultimately you will give some medicine that will inhibit the prostaglandin synthesis, and that is corticosteroids. Okay? There is effect on metabolism of prostaglandins. Prostaglandins influence metabolic reactions through the mediation of CAMP, prostaglandin E2. How? They decrease the lipolysis, increase glycogen formation, and promotes calcium mobilization. This was about metabolism. On immune system, the macrophages, they secrete prostaglandin E, which decreases the immunological functions of B and T lymphocytes. B and T lymphocytes. The main portion of prostaglandin is about reproduction. It is very important because prostaglandin E2 and F2, they are used for the medical termination of the pregnancy and for induction of the labor. This is very important because this prostaglandin we are using in our daily life in obstetrics and gynecology part. PGE2 is also responsible for, rather it promotes the cervical ripening. Okay. If you see here, this was reproduction. This prostaglandins, they are also used in pain and fever. I told you earlier in the inflammation, it works in the same way. Pain and fever. There are certain agents that produce fever that are called as pyrogens. They promote prostaglandin synthesis, leading to the formation of prostaglandin E2 in hypothalamus. That is the regulation of body temperature. This E2, prostaglandin E2, along with histamine and bradykinin, it causes pain. It is responsible for pain. So whenever migraine is there, what is migraine? You will be having another class for migraine, but this migraine is due to only prostaglandin E2, which is responsible for pain. So if there is any migraine, you will give aspirin and other non-steroidal drugs, NSAIDs, that will inhibit the prostaglandin synthesis and they will control the pain and fever. In platelet aggregation, that was your last class, and thrombosis, prostaglandins, they are used, basically prostacyclins, PGI2, they inhibit the platelet aggregation. The whole class was taught when you were here. And about thromboxane and prostaglandin E2, they promote platelet aggregation and blood clotting that leads to thrombosis. So I2 will inhibit platelet aggregation, and thromboxane and E2 will promote platelet aggregation and blood clotting that will lead to thrombosis. Okay? In male reproductive system, these prostaglandins, they enhance penile erection because they will increase the smooth muscle relaxation and they will increase the blood flow. In peripheral nerve endings, prostaglandins are the inflammatory mediators. They will sensitize the pain receptors. They also facilitate or increase the release of growth hormone, TSH, ACTH, FSH, LH and prolactin. These are all endocrine functions that are increased or enhanced by prostaglandins. In bone metabolism, they stimulate bone resorption. This was the pharmacological functions of the prostaglandins. If you see it otherwise, like receptor wise, I have a very good chart. You can see it on this. Prostaglandin F2. What does this prostaglandin do, or what are the actions or pathophysiological roles of this prostaglandin? They are acting on the FP receptors. What they will do? They will have myometrial contraction, bronchoconstriction, vasodilatation and ocular inflammation. Fine. This was about F2. Moving on to the I2, they act on IP receptors, they have vasodilatation, they will inhibit platelet aggregation, they will do bronchodilation, and they will have hyperalgesic effect. F2, I2. Okay. Now we have E2. E2 we have E1, EP1, EP2. We have done with F2, I2. Moving on to E2. E2 has three subparts, EP1, EP2 and EP3. EP1 receptor, it is responsible for bronchoconstriction and GI smooth muscle contraction. Whereas EP2, it causes bronchodilation and GI muscle smooth relaxation. Remember, EP1 and EP2, they act opposite. EP1 is having bronchoconstriction and smooth muscle contraction, whereas EP2 is having bronchodilation and smooth muscle relaxation and vasodilatation. EP3, it decreases the gastric acid secretion, increase gastric mucus secretion, it causes uterine contraction in pregnant women, and it causes GI smooth muscle contraction also. Moving on to D2, it acts on DP receptor, causes vasodilatation, inhibition of platelet aggregation, relaxation of GI and uterine muscles. G2 and H2, these are vasoconstrictors, but they produce vasodilatation due to rapid conversion of other prostaglandins. This was the chart or table. You can remember receptor wise what receptor is having what pharmacological or physiological role in our body. Moving on to the uses of the prostaglandin. Therapeutic uses. Clinically, we use this prostaglandin in various situations. Like I told you, in obs and gynae, we use this prostaglandin very frequently. This E2 and F2 alpha, they are used in pregnancy. They are used to terminate the pregnancy. In first trimester, prostaglandin comes with the brand name of misoprostol, which is PGE1. You can give this prostaglandin orally with mifepristone to induce the abortion in first few weeks of pregnancy. So this is E1, prostaglandin E1, misoprostol. In second trimester, you will give PGF2 alpha, which comes with the name of dinoprost or carboprost. You give this drug intraamniotic injection to induce abortion, and this has very less side effects. Another drug is there which is dinoprostone, which is PGE2. This is given intravaginally for inducing abortion and ripening of the cervix for induction of labor. The side effect is prolonged bleeding of this dinoprostone. This was the use of prostaglandin in obstetrics and gynecological department. Apart from that, if a patient comes to you with a peptic ulcer, okay, you will give misoprostol, which is again PGE1. You can give orally, that is 200 microgram QID, or you will give enoprostal in NSAIDs induced ulcer. If you are taking any NSAIDs and you are having gastric ulcers, you will give this prostaglandin named enoprostal, which will heal the peptic ulcer. When the patient is having ulcers with NSAIDs, or if a patient is chronic smoker. To prevent the platelet aggregation, you will give PGI2, that will inhibit the platelet aggregation. Especially in renal dialysis patient, you will give this drug, that is epoprostenol. In pulmonary hypertension, you will give PGI2, that will lower the peripheral pulmonary and coronary resistance you can give IV infusion of this drug, epoprostenol and treptostenol. You can give these two drugs in pulmonary hypertension. In peripheral vascular disease, there is one drug that is Beraprost, which is PGI2. You give orally thrice a day. In glaucoma, I told you earlier when I was telling you the pharmacological actions in eye, in treating glaucoma patients, because it will increase the drainage through uveoscleral pathway. So you will give one drug which is PGF2 alpha, that is latanoprost, or you can give bimatoprost, which will increase the drainage and the patient will be relieved from glaucoma. The intraocular pressure will come down. In patients, those who are having ductus arteriosus, you will give PGE2, I2. They are the vasodilators. They will inhibit the platelet aggregation. You can give these drugs in congenital heart disease also, pulmonary artery stenosis also. You can give IV infusion of this PGE2 and I2. What are the drugs? Epoprostenol. You can give this IV infusion. In male, impotency is there. If there is any dysfunction of penile erection, you can give this prostaglandin. It will enhance the penile erection. In bronchial asthma, as you know, we have to give bronchodilator. So you will give prostaglandin. They will cause bronchodilation in bronchial asthma and the patient will be relieved. Now, this was about the uses of prostaglandins, or therapeutically we are using this prostaglandins where, in which conditions. Moving on to the side effects of prostaglandins. Prostaglandins exhibit dose-related adverse effects like bronchoconstriction, hypotension, vomiting, diarrhea, fever, dizziness, flushing. If you move on to the individual drugs, like we were using carboprost in this intraamniotic injection, it has very less side effects, but it may lead to anaphylactic shock and CVS collapse when we are using this drug to terminate the pregnancy in second trimester. Another drug, alprostadil, it is used for maintaining the patency of ductus arteriosus, but when this drug is used for a long time, it will lead to ductus fragility and the duct will rupture. Misoprostol and enoprostol, they will cause GI discomfort and diarrhea. Prostaglandin EP4, they have the osteoclast and osteoblast activity and they will cause hypercalciuria. These were the side effects of prostaglandins. I have a table here that will show you the name of the drugs along with the preparation, means through which route you can give these drugs and in which conditions you can use this drug. Like dinoproston, it is given vaginally in induction of labor and in midterm of abortion. Dinoprost, you will give intraamniotic injection for abortion, termination of the pregnancy. Carboprost, you will either give intraamniotic injection or through intramuscularly for abortion and control of PPH. PPH is postpartum hemorrhage. Another drug is Gemprost. You will give vaginally for cervical ripening in the early pregnancy. Another drug is alprostadil. You will give IV. It is used for maintaining the patent ductus arteriosus in neonates. Another drug is misoprostol or enoprostol. You will give orally in abortion and in peptic ulcer. Another drug, epoprostenol, you will give IV in pulmonary hypertension. Latanoprostol, you can give topically it is mainly a eye drop in glaucoma. Last drug is iloprost, you will give IM. These were the drugs along with preparation, through which route they are given and the use, in which condition these drugs are given. This was all about prostaglandins. Thank you.